Let's go sew.
Today's episode of Stitch and Bitch is going to be about some time that I spent in Chicago with my sister for college. So those of you that don't know, we both went to college in the Windy City, Chicago, Illinois. So when we were in Chicago, we shared a very small, I think it was like 600 square feet studio apartment north of the city. And so we would take like the red line into school every day and to work as well. It was a very, very quaint, cozy little apartment where we had homemade bunk beds that we shared. So they were smaller than your average bunk bed. They were just like really skinny cots. And then I was on the top bunk and my sister was on the bottom bunk. It was absolutely great having like a built-in roommate when I went down there. And my sister Liz is somebody that I literally hung out with my entire life. Like we were super close in high school. And then we moved down there. She moved first and then I moved down there afterward. And our apartment was kind of hilarious. So there's a few quirks about it. So we had those bunk beds and then we also had like a tiny bathroom, a really tiny kitchen, and then like our living room, bedroom, whatever was all in one because it was just a little studio. And it was like in the middle of this apartment complex that had like it was like shaped like a square with like a hole in the middle. And so everybody had like a window towards the outside or towards the middle of the apartment complex. And we were facing the middle. And this apartment complex got so darn hot during the winter because everybody was running their heater that it would be sweating. So we would sit there and during the entire winter, we would basically leave our apartment windows open when we were home because it was so darn hot that we needed to vent and cool off somehow. And then we'd also spend a lot of our time sewing and sitting around in our underwear and our tank tops because it was basically balmy in the middle of winter in Chicago. One of my like core memories from that time is because we had bunk beds and we were just kind of like goofballs and from a big family or whatever, like one of our favorite things to do at night. I have no idea why. I don't know where it started. I can't remember that. Maybe my sister does, but we would sing when we were in our bunk beds. We would just sing "Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy." And it was quite the experience. And I remember like I look back now and I remember being like, oh, I can't wait to grow up and to like get paid instead of just like spending all this money while I was in college. I worked full time while going to school full time and I was fortunate enough to have a half tuition. But I remember just thinking like I cannot wait to graduate and get paid to do what I love instead of paying to do what I love. A hilarious thing was that we were so broke when we were in college and we were just working our tails off to just kind of like pay our way as we went that we couldn't even afford to have internet. So we had this little DVD player that we bought and we would end up purchasing like my favorite things to buy when I had $10 extra or like $20 extra. And that felt like a lot at the time because I was so broke. I would go to the Target that was at the Wilson stop in Chicago and save up like $20. Literally, I'm telling you, my budget was so dang tight. And I would have to save up and save up and save up for buying another season of The Office. We didn't have internet. We didn't have anything like that. So our entertainment while we sewed was listening to The Office over and over and over again. Hence my obsession with The Office and then Friends as well. But my personal favorite, obviously, was The Office. And so my husband, he didn't know me at all during that time. So like there's so many times that I'm like, oh my gosh, my sister's husband actually was dating her when we lived there. And so there's so many times where I'm just like, oh, I kind of want to go back and just like show Tim. Like I wish I could show him like what little me was like living in the big city. I felt so big at the time and I look back and I wasn't a big kid, but like in a way I was pretty mature for my age, just being like super dedicated to working full time while going to school full time. And like my fun was school. Like that's what fun was. Like we didn't party, we didn't do anything like that. We just got up, went to school. When we weren't in school, we were working. And we just had this cozy little apartment and I think it would be super fun to go back one day and go see it because it's something that like those are some core memories of mine. And it was such like it felt so long at the time, but it was such a short time in my life. And that's one thing that like I would love to share with Tim because it was so much fun. Another little fun thing was that our apartment was literally 1 block away from Lake Michigan. So when my sister and her boyfriend were dating, sometimes I would just leave the apartment because it was a studio and it's like, okay, I need some space. And I would just go walk around like the Loyola School University there. We lived really close and it's right along Lake Michigan and it honestly was really beautiful. And that's like like one of my favorite things about the city of Chicago is that it's right on a huge body of water. So you could always easily get to a place where you could go and smell some fresh air and just kind of pretend that I was back home, when I got lonesome or whatever. So I really enjoyed it. So there was a big part of me that kind of felt like all my friends were back in northern Michigan. Most of them were going to school up here or whatever, and a big part of me missed out on those like college years. But the experience that I had was such a different, unique experience, going to school year round, and going to an art school and doing something that was like more of like a passion than like making money at the time. Like nobody went to art school to be financially well set the rest of their life. It was very much like a passion project, but I knew I was going to be able to make something of it someday. And I just kind of thought like, it's just what I felt like I wanted to do with my life. Yeah, I look back now and I'm so grateful that I had that experience and was able to do that. And then that I had my sister for half of my time there, because that made it a lot more fun to have somebody to go out and do stuff with that I knew already. So let me know if you guys have any questions about my time in Chicago or want me to tell you more. I'm sure I will tell you more stories as they come to mind. And it's kind of fun for me to relive it and retell it, because it's been so long that it feels like such a short but important moment in my life that defined like moving out west and everything else. It's like none of that would have happened if I never ended up going to school in Chicago. But yeah, and tell me some fun stories from when you guys were in college, good memories like that, because that's always fun to hear.